Hey guys, my name is Nate, and as of making this, I'm 19 years old, and I'm going to be telling you guys a little about my entire life.
In the small town, the state of Maryland, lives a married couple of 4 years whose lives are about to change. In the summer of 1998,
So I was born on August 13th, 1998, and from the very beginning, it was clear to basically everyone that I was nuts. Um, my mom told me a story of one time when I was one. She had left me in the kitchen for no more than 30 seconds, and when she came back, I was on top of the kitchen table trying to pull down the chandelier. Now, when I entered preschool, I instantly fell in love with it. It might have been my teacher, but I think it was because I truly loved learning. I very quickly took to subjects like math and reading and have been very good at both ever since. But around the same time, my parents brought me in for testing because, I don't know, stuff happened, I guess. I don't, I'm too young, or bleh, was too young to remember any of that. And that's how we found out that I had ADHD and Asperger's syndrome. And in case you aren't familiar with Asperger's, it's basically a milder form of autism, and this will come into play later. Around that same time, my mom and dad had decided that I could use a sibling, so my mom got pregnant. Disclaimer, that is only how I understood it at the time, that is not how I understood childbirth today. So as my mom got closer to giving birth, I found out that I was going to be a big brother, and I got super hyped. On December 13th, my brother Benjamin was born, and I was super happy about it, but it wouldn't last for long, because 6 days afterwards he was born. Um, he started having issues with his lungs, and he subsequently died. Um, I was shocked. It was one of the first times I had really experienced death in on that level of closeness, um, and it still kind of stays with me to this day. But still, there was hope. As it turned out, my parents were looking to adopt a girl from China, only 14 months old, might I add. My parents had decided to name her Megan, to which I strongly protested at first. So, a little bit of background. When I was around 7, I was watching the TV show Drake and Josh, and if you've ever seen the TV show Drake and Josh, you know what the name Megan means. So, for me, it was synonymous with demons and devils, so I was having none of it. Anyway, we left for China in February with a few other families who were also adopting from China. And while we were there, we saw as many of the touristy clickbait things as we could. We saw the Forbidden City, we saw Tiananmen Square, and the Great Wall of China. After all that touristy stuff was done, we finally met Megan, and we adopted her. From the moment we first laid our eyes on her, we fell in love, and we knew that she was going to be a great addition to the family because she was just so full of joy. She was constantly moving. But as I grew up, I began discovering things that I love to this day. I entered the Cub Scouts and I fell in love with the outdoors, and I would eventually join the Boy Scouts. Some of my favorite memories from the Cub Scouts were from our annual Pinewood Derby. This involved each participant making a small car out of wood and designing it to go as fast as possible because, well, it's a race. You want to win. And you don't win unless you're fast. All the cars that I made embodied my childhood. One of them had Yoda and SpongeBob on it, while the others we just got lazy with, and one of them we just wound up turning into SpongeBob. Like, literally, the set came with a block of wood. We just kept the block of wood and just painted it. Now, I'd progress into Boy Scouts, and I'd go on countless trips. I'd hike the Appalachians, I'd sleep in a shelter that I made, and I'd climb Bolly Mountain out in Philmont, New Mexico. And this is only a few of the trips that I went on. To be honest with you, I think that one of the main reasons I actually survived through middle school was because of scouting. So, remember that Asperger's thing that I told you about? Yeah, it came back to bite me in the butt hard in middle school because I was in a special education program, and at first, I didn't really think much of it. But then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. No, but in all seriousness, some of the kids in my grade, none of them I knew, by the way, started to call those of us in the program pretty harsh names. I'm not going to say them. And although the teacher shut it down very quickly, it pretty much turned me into an introvert. Because number one, I didn't want to have to be the subject of all that. I didn't want to get noticed, and I didn't want to be in that label. Number two, it made me completely forget about pursuing the things that I was passionate about, the things that I was good at, with the exceptions of video games, because, They're video games. Um, and all that being said, scouting was one of the few places that I found things that I was good at, and I just stuck with it. But it was also through Boy Scouts that I developed a passion for community service, which then led to me volunteering at Camp Sunshine. And in case you're not aware, Camp Sunshine is a Christian summer camp. It's based in Silver Spring, Maryland, and it's a day camp. Through Camp Sunshine, though, I had rediscovered my faith. Now, a little bit of background: I was raised in a Christian family, so we went to church fairly frequently, but I didn't really do it on my own will. It wasn't until I went to Camp Sunshine that I actually found meaning in my faith, and I was eventually of the mindset that Jesus is a homie. I feel really white saying that, I'm not gonna lie. And I then became a leader within the Episcopalian Diocese of Maryland, in the youth program at least, shortly afterwards. But high school is where things get interesting. My freshman year, unlike the rest of my middle school experience, I just, for whatever reason, did not care. I was like the honey badger, okay? I didn't care what other people thought. I just wanted to be me, finally, and I'm glad I made that decision. Now, some weird things came out of this as well, because I decided to be me, and I had all this craziness kind of bottled up, and all this creativity. When I finally learned how to use Photoshop, I made things like this, and this, and this. But, it was also my freshman year of high school that I found the thing that I was the best at, and it was writing. It was actually one of my English teachers that pointed it out to me. And from that moment, I vowed to myself that I was going to sharpen my writing skills, and I was eventually going to use them for good. As a side note, before I graduate from high school, I get published in my high school's annual literary magazine, which is one of the top 5 in the country. So I think that's a pretty cool thing for an adolescent. But all this was going on. I was continuing to work at Camp Sunshine, and I started to love kids because they grow on you. So yeah, I just developed a passion for kids, and even the boogers that make it 1,000 times harder to go to bed without crying yourself to sleep because of how stressful they are. On top of that, I also eventually reached the rank of Eagle Scout and Boy Scouts. In order to do that, you have to do an Eagle Scout project, which means you have to plan it all out, and you also got to lead it. I wound up making a fire pit for Camp Sunshine, which they still use to this day, but it was through that project that I really realized how much leaders do and how much sway they have, because you don't really appreciate them until you have to be the one that breaks up an argument between 2 grown men who should be able to settle a dispute on their own, which was actually about the fire pit itself, but that's extra detail. But all of these things wound up combining into me wanting to be a high school English teacher. And apparently you can't do that without a college degree. My inner voice was like, nah, man, you can totally do it. And my parents were like, nah, you need it. And I'm like, okay. So when I graduated from high school, I decided to come here to Towson, which I have a pendant of. Oops, I dropped it. And that's also where I have my pin collection. But I've really been here ever since, and I've had a blast. In the 2 years that I've been here, I've done plenty of service through Alpha Phi Omega, which is my service fraternity. I've met plenty of awesome people and awesome friends, and I've also gotten up to some hijinks as well.
It's an experience. The worst case scenario is you have about 5 or 10 minutes.
And this is pretty much my life. I mean, sure, things have changed. My parents just told me they were getting separated before I came back to school. I really don't have much input on that, except that it was a shock. And that's really all there is. So yeah, that's me.